Poor Socks. He's so jealous. He wants his lap back. And that crying baby is driving him crazy. I know my dogs always hated the sound of the fire alarm beeping when the batteries were running out, so we had to change those batteries really quick, otherwise they would get very anxious. And so let's see what happens next at the end of chapter 2, okay? Mrs. Socks took a chance and leaped up to fill the lap, which was going to waste. Mrs. Bricker promptly returned him to the floor. Socks was deeply hurt. Filled with sorrow and longing, he lay down on the carpet with his chin on his white paw and stared into the black and empty fireplace. He yearned to be held and stroked and reassured. He longed to have his master hold him and play with his tail, and Socks was most particular about allowing people to play with his tail. With a deep sigh, Socks closed his eyes, but he did not sleep. His ears, moving like tiny radar screens, picked up every sound. "What are we going to do?" Mrs. Bricker sounded almost tearful. "If we don't get the air bubble up, his stomach will go on hurting, and he's too little to hurt." Feeding a baby can't be this hard. The father no longer sounded confident. The world is full of people who feed babies. How else do babies survive? So I don't know if you've ever had a little brother or little sister, but when they nurse from the bottle or when they drink their milk, they also swallow air while they're drinking, and it gets into their tummies. And they don't really have the ability to make themselves burp by themselves. So you have to lay them on your shoulder and pat them so the bubble will rise up and burp out of them. That's why the baby's fussing. "Try putting him face down across your knees," suggested Mrs. Bricker. "I saw somebody do that once." The radar ears caught the soft sounds of the baby being moved, followed by gentle patting. "Try rubbing," suggested the hovering mother again. Oh, sorry. Suddenly the baby belched. What were we trying to make him do? Yep, burp. And belched is another word for burp, but it's even bigger. It's a big burp. Startled, Socks raised his head and stared. The whole family was relieved. The baby, the mother, and the father. They were all who were beaming at the miraculous thing their baby had done. Socks was relieved too, because at last the crying had stopped. "Charles William," Mrs. Bricker spoke to her accomplished son by name. "Ooh, such a big noise from such a little fellow." "Attaboy," Mr. Bricker congratulated his son. "That's the old fight." The atmosphere of the room had changed from one of anxiety, fear, to one of joy, which Socks felt was his to share. This time he stood at Mr. Bricker's feet and looked up, as if to say, "I'm part of the family too." But the Brickers were too busy to notice. "Why, Charles William is asleep already," whispered Mrs. Bricker, as she bent over her son. "Here, let me take him. I'll put him down in his crib." Now, thought Socks, now, with the new person out of the room, he would get his lap back. Before he could jump, however, Mr. Bricker picked up the bottle, which still held several ounces of the baby's milk, and started toward the kitchen. Socks got there first and sat down beside the refrigerator. "See how patiently I am waiting beside our refrigerator," he seemed to be saying. Mr. Bricker opened the top from the bottle. "Socks, it isn't time for you to eat," he said, and was about to dump the formula into the sink when Socks uttered such a meow that he changed his mind. Mr. Bricker found a bowl, poured the formula into it, and carried it into the laundry room, where his feet crunched through the kitty litter that Socks had kicked the night before. He set the bowl on the newspaper beside Socks' dish. This is not normal milk, it's formula. You may have seen it if your parents used it. It's like powder, and you put it into the water and you mix it up. I wonder if a cat would like that. I don't know. Let's see. He set the bowl on the newspaper beside Sock's dish. Socks crouched and began to lap the sweet-smelling milk with his quick pink tongue. Okay, he began to lap, L-A-P, lap, the sweet-smelling milk with his quick pink tongue. What do you think lap means? Ooh, we can sit in someone's lap, or a cat can lap up milk. It means to lick up a liquid, milk or water. That's the same word, same spelling, but it means two different things. And you want me to blow your mind? You can also use the word lap when you run around a football field. If you run all the way around it, you've made one lap. That's 3 different meanings with the same word. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Did you think we had forgotten about you? Asked Mr. Bricker. Although Socks did not like to be interrupted while eating, this time he made an exception and gave his master a long stare that said, "How could you bring that new person into our house? Now you have spoiled everything." Sad and confused, Socks went back to lapping up the formula in the bowl. The warmth and sweetness of the milk comforted him. He lapped every drop and then licked the empty dish so hard that he moved it across the newspaper until it bumped the wall. Socks needed every drop he could get because he knew his owners loved the baby more than they loved him. Aw, poor Socks. That does happen, though. When a baby comes to the home, they take up a lot of time and attention. You need to spend time with them. They cry, they need to be fed, and then their diaper needs to be changed. It's worth it, though. I hope Socks and the baby can become friends. Don't you hope that same thing? Chapter 3 we'll read tomorrow. It's called Socks and the Formula. Remember, the formula is the baby powder that the baby drinks. See you tomorrow.